And they go.
Is Nerea Novo, and she's just to the left of the paddler we had in shot there. So off they go.
Good clean start, such composure as well. I mean, they were right up to the start gantry for this one. Nobody made any mistakes. There was just cool heads and good clean start. Start of our women's C1. It's a record entry, Ivan. I mean, looking at the numbers, they've got 532 athletes entered as athletes in events in 40 countries.
Yeah.
Every continent.
I mean, there's no doubt, you know, I've only been doing the commentary for, I think, the last 9 years, and year on year it's got better and better and better. You know, that we're watching there a junior women's C1 race 9 years ago. Actually, the juniors 9 years ago in Hungary did have more than the seniors. Seniors was the smaller event. But, yeah, that's come on. There was doubt in a lot of people's minds whether the junior and women's C1 would ever lift up to be a world championship quality looking field. But there you go. There it is right there.
Yeah, the good thing about being in Croatia is that we're close to seaboat paddling heartland country. Eastern Europe is really where it's always been historically the heart and soul of seaboat paddling. So it's a hop and a skip, and it's within reach.
And Canada, of course, you have to add to that heartland of seaboat paddling there. Top of your shot in the red vest is the Canadian. That's Misha Grover. So she's going to feature. The one boat missing, sadly, is from Thailand, and they just struggled to get their visas to get out here. Yeah, that sort of stuff, it's unavoidable, I guess. It does seem a real shame. It does seem a bit pedantic that people stop other people coming when they're just coming for an event like this. But so we're missing Thailand. They were here well, not here, in Denmark they were last year. They would have been crazy to be here when the race was in Denmark, obviously. But yeah, they did compete in Denmark last year, and that was great, but not to be this year.
And the feeder system here is the talent identification program, which often runs just ahead of the world champs, and the athletes that excel there get funneled into this process. Venezuela are here.
Venezuela, Chile.
Through the talent identification program, it works.
Yeah. I think they had someone penciled in from Nigeria to be on that as well, maybe, but I don't think they made it onto the camp.
Kodotova setting the pace at the front of this women's C1 field as they come through the set of red boys that are going to be defining the final little sausage lap. These boys move every night, by the way.
The boys, they drift down the course a little bit each night. They get repositioned. It's Nielsen from Great Britain and Denmark just off the back of that group as we go to the C1 again. C1 pretty much all together, but it's Novo from Spain, Romero also from Spain, Grove from Canada, Kodotova from Czech Republic, Varga from Hungary, Kolak from Poland, Padecka from Ukraine, Hoffa from Hungary, and Ged from Italy. So the two Spaniards together there, closest to us, with 63 being the current world champion, Nerea Nova. But they are being matched stroke for stroke by the Canadian at the top of his shot, Grover from Canada. For those who are watching who aren't familiar with the different disciplines, these girls obviously are different in that they're kneeling up and only paddling on the one side, whereas the kayaks paddle both sides and sit down. But the significant difference with these that you can't see is that they don't have a rudder, where the kayaks do. That's why the group formations are not as tidy. It's not as easy to sit in a group, and so it does tend to fracture and splinter more, working in pairs more. From Italy. But we're back to the C1s now, and Kodotova most certainly has opened up a little bit of a gap on the others. 24 seconds now back to Kovalak, who's overtaken Novo, who was world champion last year, remember. So things aren't going quite so well for her. You know when you've been tangoed. As Kodotova comes upstream, we've just had the Japanese athlete in the K1 run over the portage. That's Kurahata from Japan in 18th place.
Kurahata, fascinating athlete. Started paddling at 9 in Japan. It's a relatively young sport in Japan. From Shiga, paddles on one of the big lakes there, Opatochime Club, and really looking forward to the opportunity for the Japanese athletes. They want to do as well as they can. Obviously, they're going to leave it all out there, but they want to be the best Asian athletes.
They do. They've got a Hungarian coach. He's racing later on in the week. Jokos, I think. I might have remembered the name wrong, but he's out there. But you know, I'm going to say I'm disappointed with the progress of the Japanese. They've been in this. The first time I remember them was back in Brandenburg, good few years ago now, and they may have been there before that, but that's just my first recollection of them. And they haven't really progressed through the field, and they're always just off the back, and I don't know, they need a little bit of a readjustment out there, I think, just to get in touch with the Europeans. Maybe just send athletes over. You know, it's hard to train if everyone's at that same level, not speed level but skill level, and you've got to up the skill level if you want to make it in these races.
Lajos Jokos is going to be racing in the senior Canoe race, and he is an absolute god to those Japanese. They worship him. He's a hero. And he's had a huge impact on the sport there.
He absolutely has, and they're here consistently. And you know, I don't know, maybe it sounds harsh saying I'm disappointed in their progress, but you just would love to see a group from outside the usual suspects come through. We've had that to a certain extent. The Argentinians have ripped through this, and they're right up there. And that's, you know, some of those Argentinian races this weekend are going to be the highlight of the weekend for sure.
Well, you were going on about how the Hungarians traditionally dominate the podiums and the medal ceremonies here. My memory of Denmark is just the Argentinians and the juniors.
Those junior boys, and they're racing senior K2 this year.
Fresh air, yeah.
And that, you know, I'm gonna champion them in that race because I would just love to see them doing well. Women's C1 ongoing. They're on lap 2 of 3, which means this time there's a portage, and it must be coming up fairly soon. Kodotova from the Czech Republic, taking it to the rest of the field. Poland has overtaken Spain, but they are a fair distance adrift. I can maybe even give you distances.
Kodotova not really taking too much of a risk by going on a solo charge here. I mean, that race is 3 laps.
Yeah.
She can afford to burn some matches at this stage, effectively dominate the race and build up a buffer and not worry about having to.
Yeah, and I think we both speak about C1 from a position of relative ignorance, but historically the C1 races, they split out single file and there's very little change happens. So yeah, it's got to be a factor of the wash riding. It's got to be a factor of the comfort, you know, having to steer the boat when there's waves around you. So the leader has the best trip round, I would suspect, and she looks super comfortable. So 36 minutes in, and we're coming to portage number 1.
Just a sense of how the rain is gradually picking up here. As I mentioned earlier, the good news is that the thunder and lightning is staying away. So into the portage she comes, gets her foot out of the foam fittings. She's under no pressure, absolutely no pressure. It's a luxury, it's a privilege she's earned by having ground out a lead for herself. Gets the water out of the back of that C1. And you can see as you look down onto the portage, she's got 15-20 seconds lead. This is the race for silver. Yeah,
and Podetska was the paddler in the background behind them from Ukraine. We haven't actually mentioned her. She's been sort of working away there. It was the second Spaniard had been there, Romero in 4th place, but Podetska is coming through. Bit of encouragement from the coach. Glance up at the camera there. Did you see that? Did you see that? Oh, just
no, it's a big. As you run up the portage, you're looking.
Check myself out on the big screen.
Yeah. Back into the water she comes. Left knee into the big foam fitting and away smoothly, calmly. Sucking a little bit of oxygen after having run that portage, but holding all the cards as she heads into lap 3.
Spain has overtaken Portugal. What am I talking? Poland on the portage, and away you go. Here's your Ukrainian. We're likely to see Ukrainian medals in the senior C1 later this weekend. Maybe even a top 2 shut out from the Ukrainians in the senior women's C1. But for now, Czech Republic potentially with the first gold medal of the weekend, followed by Spain.
Shout out to paddler Brett who's watching. I think he watches every moment of every podcast, every stream.
I was going to say, I feel like Brett needs to get out more.
Brett, I think Brett has had the worst week in the world because he's normally
would normally be here.
He's normally here and having a ball with the Masters, but he's unusually not on the lineup.
Bit of FOMO back at home there.
So I'm sure he's walking around the lounge, kicking the dog, and being a bit of a nuisance. Thanks, Luke. We're balancing the race between the C1 and the K1. We'll make sure we watch all the key points. The portages are obviously vital for both races, so a lot of it is going to center on the portages and the turns up to the top turn can as the rain gets steadily heavier here.
I think it's adding to the romance of the morning. Just that rain falling, the nice pitter-patter on the outside of our
Portaloo.
Should we call it Portaloo, to give it its full title, that we're sat in to commentate. We get, well, you get a window in your seat, Dave, which is nice. I can look across and envy the window view
you
that
can
you
reach
have.
the flash button.
But no, it's pretty good. We're in a nice position here at the portage. We're right opposite the finish line. We're not exactly on the finish line, so our calls might be a bit vague, but we'll give you a good sense of the likely finishes when they happen.
Kowalek of Poland. Key part of that seaboat technique is to maximize the glide. For all the effort of getting that big blade into the water, you want to maximize the glide you get out of it. And it's actually great to watch those that are very good at it. It's very efficient.
So Spain definitely got the better of Poland over that portage. Poland came in first, Spain came out first by a fair margin. And currently it's Czech Republic, Spain, Poland, and then Ukraine. Here's the leader in the junior women's C1. She's been ahead for a long time now, and I think that gap has grown. Yep, it has, to 86 meters, and it looks like Poland have overtaken Spain again. So Poland clearly better on the water, Spaniard better on the portage, and Podetska from Ukraine hasn't really made up much ground. Now
VIP seats.
Look at that. Cup of tea, watching from your window. Grandstand seating right there. Kodotova.
That Elio
untroubled,
slicing through this water, which is like glass in the rain. It's just great paddling conditions. Second lap a bit slower, but she's been under no pressure.
Only 20 seconds though. Over 20 minutes. 1 second a minute, roughly. It's pretty impressive.
And this is all about a groove, a rhythm that you've just drilled into yourself. I know in training it's all about...
I thought you were going to burst into the Madonna song there, Dave. The Get Into the Groove. I thought you were off. I thought you were off.
Well, I got booed off for my Bob Seger rendition earlier, so...
Honestly, guys, I thought I was in the booth with Bob Seger. Dave's rendition of Bob Seger songs, you wouldn't know it wasn't a CD.
Karaoke starts at 2.
There's your second place, Kowalek from Poland.
Poland's very proud of their history-winning medals in seaboat events here.
Surely that bag of liquid dangling off over to your arm, that's got to be uncomfortable, hasn't it? There has to be a better way of doing that.
It's a permanent source of debate amongst the seaboat paddlers. Most of them prefer to anchor it in the boat and carry enough juice for the whole race.
Flapping around like a, I don't know, flagging hurricane, isn't it? That just looks uncomfortable.
To the point that it actually must get in the way of your left bicep on that stroke.
Presumably she's been practicing with all that, which I mean, that's obvious she has, but I don't know, there has to be a better way. coming in for portage number 2.
So just to, you either love it or hate it, but final portage is always accompanied by the music of the final countdown.
I know which way I sit on that.
My view is clear. I know the athletes do kind of look forward to it. It's one of those benchmarks.
So just to recap then, this is the final portage for these girls, and then just up to the top turn and back for the women's C1.
Final portage.
Just coming in soon.
Short lap and then a turn up to the white finish, boys. And the podium is pretty much decided here. Bar,
yeah, unless the Spaniard can stay close enough to the pole to just do her over on the last portage, but she doesn't look close at the moment. There is Kovalak there, and she looks to be about 30 meters now on the track ahead of Novo from Spain. So no double for Novo. She was world champion last year. She's going to have to settle for bronze this year. That must be a strange feeling as a junior, because you automatically assume improvement one year on year.
Or you would hope to be able to defend.
Yeah.
It possibly speaks volumes about the standard of what's happened in the other countries.
But it also speaks volumes to the irrelevance of age. You know, so often you hear in the junior category, oh, she's in the under 18, but she's only an under 16, only an under 17, she's still got another year to go. And all that talk often comes to nothing, because you know, girls especially tend to develop reasonably early, and you know, maybe they peak out at 16, 17, some of them. But it's a tough one for Novo. You know, this time last year she was going around ahead of the field, and now she's in 3rd place, and that's probably quite hard to get your mind around as well.
And tough to go back to the shed after a race like that.
Yeah. That was shed, Dave said. It's a South African accent. It did sound like something else. So apologies to the listeners there.
Capital E.
That's a South African shed.
Into the portage, nudging the nose up against the pontoon.
Very cautious getting out. Looks a little bit nervy getting out of that boat. She'll turn it over now, empty the water out, and we're coming through on what we believe is the fight. It's still dangerous. I mean, she threw her drinks bag down. Her drinks bag's not going to roll, but it can blow, and that's what happened to Romala. I think it blew off the pontoon. So really, you want to get rid of your drinks on the top of that, on the horizontal bit.
Carry it into the feeding chute.
Yeah, or drop it here somewhere. But
there we go. It's like toothache for me, but it's the final lap. So.
Silver medal. Currently sitting with Poland. Just struggling to get a bit of control of her boat there.
But there's your champ. She's been in a class of her own in this race. Korotova puts in. So
the initial challenge from Canada fizzled a little bit.
She's still hovering 5th and 6th, but it certainly isn't going to threaten the podium.
Certainly on track now, she's back to 7th. But yeah, it's, I don't know. You know, Canadians, they've won so many of the women's C1s events in flat water paddling that you kind of expect them to be up there. But there goes your leader and your probable winner up to the final turn and back. 2nd place, just pushing away from the side. Oh, quite close to 3rd, but the Spaniard had that one chance, I think, to overhaul her on the run and didn't make it. So it's going to be Czech Republic from Poland, from Spain. Is this the shortest final lap ever? That's usually about 1,000 meters, isn't it? 500 up, 500 back. This is what, 100 meters up and 300 meters back?
I think it's 350 down.
Right. That's super short. Yeah, you've got no room at all for a bad final portage.
No.
Personally, as an athlete, I would hate that. I would hate that's a lot of stress, and it introduces an element of jeopardy that I would be unhappy with.
It does create a spectacle, because you've suddenly got 2 tight turns at the brutal end of the race.
All right, so So they're going down past the finish.
They're going
and
down
finish
past the finish and then
shows what I
circling
know.
around.
Yeah,
They weren't doing a circle around the top 10.
I thought that was it. No, I thought they were finishing coming downstream. So they're going to have to finish upstream in the middle of the river.
Finish into the stream.
You see, what I should have been here, Dave, was a couple of days earlier where I could watch other people do this, like you were.
You were shopping in Split.
I was shopping for tents in Split, yeah. Tents and batteries. Don't ask. So up round the top turn, down round the bottom turn, which obviously I didn't know, and then finish upstream in the middle of the river.
And the Czech Republic is going to open with the first medal for the juniors.
And interestingly, no Hungarian in that front three.
Yeah.
And potentially, yeah, we could go a whole morning session without a Hungarian medal.
That hasn't happened often.
I would suggest never.
Teresa Kodatova putting a stamp on this race and signaling that she's going to be a force to be reckoned with in seaboat paddling as she moves out of the junior ranks into the under-23s and ultimately a senior. That'll excite the Czechs. It's interesting to see how many 15-year-olds are racing in the juniors. They will have 3 years to be able to race and learn and grow and improve.
Yeah. Interestingly, yeah, you say we've got 15-year-olds here. Of course, this is going on the same weekend as Olympic Hope Sprint Regatta. So you've got a lot of under 15s, under 16s, under 17s there who potentially could be here. You've got girls here who could be there. It's a tough one because, yeah, this is your World Championship. The other one is, it's not an actual World Championship, but I think it's pretty much considered a World Championship for the age
For me,
groups.
I would take the Worlds in a heartbeat. It wouldn't even be a decision.
Sadly, Dave, you're also not under 17, so you haven't really got a choice, to be fair. But I mean, it's nice of you. It's nice of you to have an opinion, but seriously, you're a bit deluded. You're entering the under 17 girls races now. There's crimes related to that, I think.
Focusing strictly back on Teresa Kodatova as she comes around the bottom turn cans into the current here on the Neretva River. And this is her victory parade as she comes probably down the right-hand side of the river, and at the last minute she will have to then turn left to go through the finished cans, which are right in the middle of the river.
That is going to be a learning curve through the weekend. The route you take back from that bottom turn, I think. She has, exactly like you said, she's come over to the right, which would be the logical thing to do, especially if there's a significant flow. Can come all the way to the edge. There's second place in the background, no chance of that gap closing.
That's 1, 2, 3 pretty much decided.
So we're watching, there's third place, so you've got all three in shot. The gaps are significant, the camera shortens those gaps somewhat.
Kowalak, she's had her time on the top of the podium. She was a Poznan winner, C1 Juniors. But this is your champion as she starts heading towards the center of the river from the Czech Republic, Teresa Kodatova.
She's beaten
sensational feeling. There's now no threat to that goal. She can actually savor this moment, bank the memories. Those early mornings in the cold when you've been out training, wondering what the hell you're doing. This is what it's all about. This is what makes it worthwhile.
Yes, Nepal beat her a few weeks ago in Poland. Maybe conditions had some aspect of control over that result. But here it's Czech Republic all the way. She's been ahead for as long as we can remember now. But we're both quite old, Dave, so our short-term memory is poor, so it seems forever ago when she took the lead. But she's going to come home comfortably. There go the leaders in the junior women's K1. Still a group of 4 going back down the river. They're going back for their final
Kodatova comes to the line. The Czech Republic bags gold.
Boom, there's your first medal of the weekend. Superb paddle from Kodatova.
And the tears in the rain. The emotion just explodes, just overwhelms you once you've crossed the line. those early mornings, the mums, the dads, the coaches that have dragged you through those dark moments when you would far sooner be hanging out with your teenage friends. You're now a world champion. Take your medal back to the Czech Republic. Poland going to be taking the silver. Grit and determination all the way down to the line.
The bandana is synonymous with canoe paddling as well. I like that. I like they've carried that through history. There's always been a bandana in a canoe race, and this week it's Poland's bandana. Kovalak of Poland, second place, just ahead of Novo, last year's world champion, this year's bronze medalist. All three across the line.
So there's your podium settled. Looks back over her shoulder just to see where there was any pressure coming from.
A little bit, I think, of disappointment there. A little bit of frustration, maybe. It wasn't her day. Kovalak seems the most cheerful of the three there. Ukraine in fourth position with Podetska.
Strong finish from her. Ukraine coming away from Denmark with some solid swag from the Seaboats. Just outside of the podium, but plenty to take heart from.
And then Romero from Spain, bronze medalist at the Europeans. I think the field was maybe a little softer there. And today it's fifth place. So Spain in third and fifth. Romero, those last few strokes, maybe a few more than the last few.
She's got 100 odd meters still to come down to the finish.
So the next portage in the K1 Women Juniors will be the last one. So once we've seen Romero over the line, it would be great if we could get back to those girls junior K1 race.
Timing should be good. We saw them on the downstream lap in the background.
So your favourite on that has to be seeing her, the South African. She's got 5 seconds in hand, it seems, on that portage. And 5 seconds is going to be enough for her, I think, to hold that lead to the finish.
So there's your top 5 in the women's C1.
Hopefully
Hungary's Hoffa coming down to the line.
To the K1 fairly soon. Hoffa from Hungary. Junior women's K1 still in the background there, going down for their final bottom turn. Hungary across the line.
And there's Grover of Canada. Big Canadian contingent making the trip. Long way. And Misha Grover coming down to the line. She's going to claim a 6th on this occasion. And now we'll keep an idea of what is happening.
Junior women's K1 coming over the portage, but I'm not sure.
It's one of the back markers.
Where we are.
Who's finishing the portage? So as we watch the Seaboat paddlers completing the top 10, you'll hear the final countdown in the background, which means that the front 4 boats in the women's K1 are coming into the portage.